I just dust. Okay, so basically, you can see the laptop showing you the inner programming of the actual controller. So basically what you would do is when you do have that online capability later on, this is basically the inside programming where you can actually make physical changes based on what's been happening over the trend. And what I mean by that is if you're monitoring the water 24/7 and it's been spitting out half an hour readings every day, you're going to see when you hit a high pH, a low pH, a high chlorine, a low chlorine. If something runs out, like an overfeed type situation, it'll lock out. That could mean a couple of things. That could mean your CO2 tank has failed, whether it's a leak, whether it ran out of gas. Same thing for the chlorine. Basically, you have Stenner pumps maybe for chlorine. You break a squeeze tube, guess what? You're going to get a runtime limit error. That means you need to haul butt over here to figure out, well, what is it? Because none of that's ever usually good.
What did you mean by sampling every 30 minutes?
So basically, we have a software set up basically called Vivo Point. And what that entails is it entails a monitoring system 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where every half an hour it's spitting out the readings, letting you know the temperatures, letting you know what the chemistry is. As you delve into it a little bit more, it'll actually let you know how long the actual pumps and things turned on for. So that way, if you know you have a number 5 squeeze tube on a Stenner pump and it's set at the max and it pumps 85 gallons per day, mathematically you can figure out, well, how much chlorine did I use in a certain amount of time.
Well, that's a deeper conversation we can have with your guys' staff.
Yeah.
So we can typically set up, so if you had a Cat 5 in here, you can grab the information and pull it right off of your own network. What we do normally to stay off your network and to protect your guys' the IT, we'd set it up on cellular modems.
Yeah.
Right, so we can put 4 controllers on one modem. It's a data plan. We would set up your own dashboard. So from any of your PCs, any of your phones, anything,
Right.
you could pull up your dedicated IPs and see every body of water you have on these controllers in real time. All the readings, you can see all the graphs. So say you had a guest that came in and said, hey, I got a bleached out bathing suit, which we all know happens in spas typically. You could go back to those records. They're stored in the cloud forever. All that information is available to you guys. You could pull it and say, okay, on this day, we were within health code parameters. Here's the data right off the computer, and then give it to risk management, and then you can address it.
So basically for all 12 bodies of water, what Nate's saying is you would literally have a dashboard that shows every body of water, and if there was anything that was an alarm parameter, those would be your first ones that would pop up on the dashboard for where you need to go position yourselves. So like in the way of doing it in the old day, you would have to go to every single body of water to figure out what's wrong or what isn't wrong. Now you can actually go ahead and save some labor and go exactly where you need to go first, because if you have perfect situations or near perfect, you don't need to go over there. So it's very helpful from a labor standpoint. Like Nate said, it's a whole nother platform we can get into later. For what you have right now with these controllers and you're getting little alarm parameters and things like that, if you come walking up to the controller and you see that you've got an orange light flashing, the first thing that you want to do to kind of maybe isolate what the issue is just hit the down arrow one time, and it'll physically just tell you, boom, alarm, pH sensor. So you know right away. And you may have 1, 2, or 3 alarms. Some of these alarms, it'll take you a little while maybe to figure out, well, what's that mean? They have a letter designation or a number designation in front of each alarm parameter. What that is looking at the inner programming, and I talked to Trev a little bit about it. You'll see that those are in front of what it is. So E is chlorine. That's basically your sensor connector. C is your pH. So that's why when you see this alarm flash, it has a C in front of it. So it lets you know that that's in fact on the right sensor. It is a pH sensor. That's your probe right here. So this is what's communicating for that alarm right now. It's telling you that you've got a low pH, or that pH is either ran too long, or it came out of its set point, and it showed an alarm parameter. Doesn't necessarily mean that it'll turn off. It depends on what the level of alarm is on that. If it's going to lock out, a lockout alarm will be a runtime error, a runtime limit for obvious reasons. That means you don't want it to feed until somebody comes over here and corrects it. So when you have an alarm like this and you validate, verify what in fact it is, and you're comfortable with doing a reset, the way you go about doing that is you will walk up to the controller, go down one time, it'll show you the alarm, you corrected the problem, what have you, and you basically hit enter 3 times. Clear alarms. You see that little hieroglyphic up there in the upper right hand corner? It's the same hieroglyphic on enter. Hit enter, it says cleared alarms, reset all. And back. Now you're back to your main screen. And you can see that it went blue. Now if that alarm still has not been corrected, it'll pop back up like within 2 minutes. It'll reappear.
And what, I'm sorry, I didn't see the alarm. Which one was it? Was it
That was a pH alarm.
pH alarm.
Yes, sir.
What's the
So,
pH at right now?
It's at 7.3.
So that's okay.
So basically,
It depends on where you set it.
yeah, so what I can do, like I said, we don't know quite yet where we want the alarm parameters to be, how tight or how wide yet. We don't have a bather load. And then we know that we have a little bit of issues to work out with the CO2 on the feed times and things. So we'll do the best we can as far as setting up the controller with what we have, 0 bather load, and we'll get it to a safe set point. We kind of want to monitor them pretty closely until we get a really good handle on what's happening chemically, for obvious reasons. So we want to kind of set the parameters fairly tight, but not so tight to where it's a constant nuisance.
Right, like for example, you're saying that although this seems to be overfeeding CO2 and bringing the pH too low, once we have a bather load and you start getting the chlorine feeding, the chlorine feeding and raising the pH,
Correct.
then that might balance itself out.
It may. So,
Right.
you know, we may not have that issue when we do have a bather load. Well, actually, it's too premature for us to start making drastic changes
Right.
to mechanical anything.
So you set it up in safe parameters to start off
Correct.
operating,
And
right? And
that's-
then there'll be adjustments with ambient temperatures, with
Yep.
bather loads, with all those things. So we just start off safe.
Yeah,
for you
start
guys.
off safe. And I was really safe in what I did yesterday. I gave us a 3.0 on time and a 5 off time.
Okay.
So, you know, the industry standard for spas especially is 5. And you know what'll happen if you're lower than that and then you have a party type hotel. You know, I mean, my background, Hard Rock pool parties, you know, I can't run 5s. I gotta kind of think high, water park mentality rather than Riverside County mentality. Because if I run at Riverside County mentality, I'm gonna be 0 all day long and my pool's gonna suffer.
Oh, yeah.
I have to shoot high and expect the masses. The gates open up, you have 1,000
That's what
people
you
go in, and it's like boom. My
Yeah,
pumps
you start
can't get enough
extending
chlorine in there fast enough.
At least to run between 5 and 8
Yeah.
on the water park.
So I just got done for when we start thinking sizes and delivery of chlorine or whatever we're putting in. I just did the Palm Springs Aquatic Center. They came off of LMIs because of the maintenance and the cost involved, and they installed 4. I had to put 4 M170 DM5s in, dual head, capable of getting 170 gallons of chlorine in a 24-hour period per head. And they have a 1,000-gallon tank down there. So they're able to do what they were doing before with those pumps, and then I put them on 2 of those backup, meaning your set parameters are basically this all the time. And then if you get that big influx or that huge bather load, June, July, August, where the temperatures skyrocket, then the other 2 pumps are there to compensate. And it's working great for them. So with this system, we can always adapt to the changing parameters that are happening. If you think you have a water park type mentality here on weekends where you've got huge bather loads, maybe we want to have a backup pump installed just for that. And we can always do that.
These control systems are highly monitored. So
Yeah.
we have equipment rooms where we're tying in kilowatt hours, pump amp drops, flow meters, everything tied in the controller, and then on your dashboard, you would be able to see all that information.
You've got relays on this controller not being used right now that we can go ahead and set you up on secondary type feed pumps and things. If you want to,
Ancillary dosing,
yeah,
enzymes, all
even
those things
enzymes
are-
at night. You do not put clarifiers and enzymes during normal hours. You want all that obviously going in at night, post backwash. So something to think about. All that's capable. We'll get there later. Let's just get a successful startup and we'll be good. But later on, we can tailor it to whatever you need. You start seeing that you have a problem area, you're going to know it, we can address it. Whether that's more chlorine, more pump, change some acid in rather than just CO2. We'll figure it out as the bather loads occur. So basically, the alarm is holding in there pretty good right now at 7.3. So, here's a little knowledge. I mean, why is ideal 7.4 to 7.6? Bather comfort. So basically, the pH of your eyeball is 7.3, so basically we don't want to run set points 7.3 and below for obvious reasons. Still neutral at 7.0, we're not going to hurt equipment, but it's all about bather comfort. So we can kind of fine tune the pH around that, and that's what I've done here. So 7.3 is not where we want it, but as you said, if we start feeding chlorine in there, that pH is going to come up on its own. The thing we want to be careful of is the alkalinity. Keep that alkalinity dialed in, chances are your pH will always be good. So when you're doing your testing in the morning, midday, afternoon recommended, make sure you're getting your alkalinity test in there as well, not just pH and chlorine.
I already let them know with the CO2 we're gonna
Yep.
alkalinity is gonna be
For sure. So, if we lose control of the alkalinity, we're going to be chasing pH all day long. It's not going to be fun. And that will affect your chlorine as well.
On that 7.3 pH, we typically run commercial facilities now on the low range of pH.
Yep.
And the reason is the increase in waterborne disease. So the Legionella outbreaks and things like that we're seeing. So the lower we run the pH, the stronger the chlorine.
Yep.
Right? So
And more
instead of running a
aggressive.
7.4 to 7.6, we'll run a 7.3 to a 7.5. And keep it in that lower range,
Yeah.
the strength of the chlorine. We tend to use less sanitizer if we run a little bit lower pH because if we're running off low RP and ppm, the strength of the chlorine is faster, it kills quicker, we use less. It's more effective. So
Right.
we're providing a more effective killing in the water.
That's a good area to piggyback off of on. You want to talk about the stabilizer effects with this controller?
Yeah, so stabilizers. So we don't use stabilizers like places like Vegas. We don't use stabilizers in like 10 years, right? But we use it they're used on occasions in high UV situations to save on chemicals, right? So the modified health code is changing some of the parameters on that. They're looking to lower it to at least 30, but it doesn't look like it's probably going to happen. So what the CDC did, CDC changed the inactivation levels for biohazard response. So if you have a biohazard in your pool that calls for an inactivation of bacteria, you have to lower your cyanuric acid level below 15 or below to even start the process. So, and we know, just so you guys know, we tested cyanuric acid in a controlled environment on control systems for about 2.5 years and gathered all the data. We know for a fact that cyanuric acid between a 10 and about a 17, somewhere in that range, has a pretty significant savings in chemicals, but it also allows the chlorine to kill single-cell bacteria in a timely fashion. Anything over 20 tends to be a waste. It's negligible. Everything after 20, it drops off drastically. So the CDC even did a study on it, so you guys are aware. So they had a controlled pool, 7.5 pH, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, 3.0 chlorine with no sanitizer, kill single-cell bacteria in 3 to 6 minutes. The exact same body of water with 30 parts per million cyanuric acid takes over 4 hours to kill the same bacteria. That's the difference. So if we're going to use it, we're not against using it, right? But let's measure it. Let's keep it in a range that's acceptable. Let's keep the water as
Exactly.
efficient as we can.
We don't have any plan. I've never run it at any of the water parks. I don't plan to run it.
Yeah, we
But
typically
we wanted to
don't.
make sure we addressed it.
But just in case. And it'll affect the way the controllers
Yeah,
work. It'll affect
this is a
probes
free
and
chlorine
everything.
probe.
Everything's changed.
As technicians, we have to know what it is we're working on.
That's it.
So we're not pool guys, we're technicians. So when we're talking about, you're looking at $2,400 just right here in this cell. These aren't throwaway probes. We have to do everything we need to safeguard this section right here. Whether it's isolating when we do something out there, we want to always make sure that this is not jammed up with debris. That's why we put the pre-filters on.
We did.
Perfect.
They didn't come with it. We
Make
come.
darn sure that you're checking these, because if you get a flow issue at all, we like to crank these back just a little bit just to get a little bit of a wobble or movement, not necessarily a spin. But we'd like to just get it to where it's not going to fail, but yet we're going to get a good sample. We don't want the water blowing through there. So if you start getting a bunch of debris and things trapped in here, it's going to affect all this. So just keep in mind that you've got a lot of money tied up right here. This probe here is a gelled probe.
So this is something that we need to maintain probably what, quarterly?
Typically quarterly is a
So
good check.
quarterly, or if there's a mishap. If there's a mishap, we're gonna wanna go here. And the first thing you're gonna see is your chlorine went way out of whack for who knows what reason. Generally, you're gonna go ahead and go right to this cap. That cap's removable, it has a gel in there. I can give a one-on-one or a group class on how to re-gel a probe. I've got, what, 6 to do today over there at the other pump.
Absolutely, yeah, we'd like to see that.
Yeah, so that's very important.
It's a nice process. It's nice to have something like that you can just re-gel as opposed to changing a probe.
Yeah, and we don't condemn probes right away. It'll be one of us is coming out here, and we're going to go ahead and do some things on site to verify, validate that the probe's either good or bad. So just don't go, I need a new probe. It's probably, I'm going to come and see you.
That's the PPM probe.
Yes, sir.
How long do those probes typically last?
God, we've had great success. What? We haven't had to change those probes out
Years.
years. I mean, if you're doing operationally what you're supposed to be doing, we're going to say safely 2-3 years, hopefully.
Yeah, if you ever, the only thing, and it affects any probes that are making,
Yeah.
any of the modern probes, if you have tremendous overshoots, right, or if we shock the pool with a heavy dose of like a Cal Hypo shock or grinder or something, and we don't isolate things, and that heavy concentration gets sucked through,
Yeah, you'll
that's
contaminate
where we
it.
start to see problems, and that's with any probe.
Yeah.
That shortens the life
If
of
you
stuff.
have a fecal issue, the diarrhea signs are out there, it's a reality. If that happens, once you get everything back down to levels, you're going to want to go through a complete recalibration process of all these probes. You're just going to want to make darn sure that everything's back to normal. Don't be in a hurry just to turn these back on and walk away from it. There's going to have to be a little bit of monitoring going on manually. Just doing a lot of hand testing, making sure this is what we call, when these probes are working properly and these numbers are corresponding with them, we call that tracking. So the terminology for that is your probe tracking properly based on what you're getting for your physical reading. And I think you guys use Allen test kits, which is ideal, because that's all we like to use when we go up here to program and calibrate. We won't calibrate based on a Taylor test kit. There's too many variables involved in that. It's a great kit, but we just don't use it to calibrate with. So use your Allen test kit. Any questions right now specifically about what we've talked about with the probes and the controller, the flow parameters, and how that works?
So on the outlet, you're saying it's better to keep it just tracking up to
Yeah,
it's flow meter up.
We
and
always
all
like,
open.
in the field, we always try to teach best practices. So if we think logic here for a minute, we just keep everything wide open, you've got as much flow that 3/8 tube will allow through this. This is one of the only low flow sample cells on the market that we're able to get a really accurate reading based on slowing the water down. And you can see there's actual levels on here where you can adjust this up and down based on what you would like to achieve for flow. Generally, I keep it all the way to the lowest setting. So we're way down here and we have this much flow to work with in there. I'm able to play with that even yet based on this being clean, based on the filters having the proper pressures, and based on the pump strainers working the way they're supposed to. Those are the factors. But yet I can go ahead and you'll see here, we'll get some movement. We're not asking it to spin, we're just wanting to see a little bit of wobble. If I go too much, that happens. Well, that's bad.
Yeah.
We don't want that happening. That's a nuisance flow alarm. One little issue with the pump, the basket, that's going to happen, and it's going to create a service call. But more importantly, it may create an issue because nothing's going to feed. So we don't want to go too crazy on that. You can see how fast that went up, and there's a lot of flow there. So I'm comfortable based on these being my responsibility, my pools, and I'm on my job, I'm doing it, I know where I can get away with that. Because what I'm after as I fine tune everything is I'm asking this to be as accurate as it can possibly be, because that's the best thing, best approach, best practice.
So what I hear you saying is if we do full flow, it's not going to be as accurate.
You lose a little bit.
Okay.
Nate, you agree, disagree?
Yeah, so because of the gel system as opposed to like a glass meter, if we we slow the process down, then we get a truer reading. Because what's happening is it's actually using that gel as an activator to read millivolts and BPM, right? So if we're washing that stuff across there too fast, then we're actually going to end up washing that gel out of there prematurely, which creates inconsistencies in readings. So if we keep that thing consistent flow across that probe, then we get consistent readings.
Correct.
Because controllers should be, once we get these controllers set, once our ambient temperatures are stabilized, so we get into a summer, right, and our ambients are fairly consistent, controllers don't need to be, worked with and calibrated constantly. They find a balance, and these actually tend to be a little bit intuitive, or they'll be adjustments that we do, right, in the probe systems and the way they read. So the more consistent they get, the more consistent we keep the flow, the more consistent the readings, the more consistent our water is, the more consistent our chemical usage becomes. So that's what we're looking for.
Correct. So, sorry, go ahead.
When this goes into alarm, does it shut off or is it still working but it's just
Good
telling
question.
you it's in alarm?
Good question. So, certain things yes, certain things no. Depending upon that alarm parameter. Like I said before, on the one-time limits and things like that. But on the flow, that's 100% everything shut off. No chlorine's going to feed, no CO2's going to feed, nothing's going to happen. You're going to be in an alarm under a no-flow condition. On the pool, obviously, it's going to be something happened with this, the pump went out, phased out, something happened. On your hot tubs, this is great for you to know because how often does somebody inadvertently hit the emergency stop button? When they hit that e-stop and you don't know it, that can be a lot of labor involved in getting that spa back up, depending upon what time of day that happened and how soon you found out. Now you're going to know right away on a hot tub. As soon as somebody hits that emergency stop, that's going to happen, and it's going to send an alarm out. It's not going to wait. It's going to send it out right away. So you're going to be able to respond to your hot tub. Whereas before, you have no idea.
So our e-stops are hooked up to our main pumps and not just
Yes.
not just
They're supposed to be on every pump. The interlock is for...
That's a good question for Carl.
Yeah. So,
All
Carl...
the pumps in the stall will get off.
Okay, good.
The pump, the jet pump, and the waterfall pump on the front.
Good.
I'm pretty sure our stuff we have right now.
No, it's just for the jets,
just
yeah.
legit.
We even have the e-stop on the flight pump.
So that's a great question because you're going to want to validate that for sure. This has nothing to do with jet pumps whatsoever. It's all filtration. If somebody hits the emergency stop, the filtration pump should stop. You guys can verify that. And this is what we want to see happen. We want that to happen right there.
So why has it not gone into alarm mode right now?
There's a delay. There's a delay before it'll actually go into it. I'll have to look on and see exactly what it is. I think it's a 2-minute delay.
Okay.
Because what happens is it'll show a no flow within 2 minutes on your phone. It'll be a slight delay in case it's a nuisance trip. So, which is nice because like we said, we get bothered enough. We don't need to have every alarm coming out. And we can also set what level of alarm you want to receive. I know in talking to Mr. Tonk yesterday, he said, I don't want any alarms.
Yeah.
That was funny. But seriously, there's some alarms you definitely want to see right away. So,
That's all. That's all.
but like I said, get comfortable with what it is you're working on before you really start trying to do any